everyone, it's Lisa here. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a cute little fox using the Nitty Gritty Brush Pack and the Cute Art Creator. I've gone ahead and created a canvas in Procreate that's 4000 pixels by 4000 pixels. So the first thing I'm going to do is use one of the stamps from the Cute Art Creator, and I'm coming all the way up to the little body. There it is. Okay, so I'm just going to stamp once, and I think I like that size, so I'm going to leave it that size. So with this body shape, you can see all the different things you can create with it. So little ears for mice and little ears for rabbits, and in this case we're going to be creating a fox using this template just as our guide. So on a new layer above that, I'm just going to turn that stamp layer down, and using a pencil brush, I'll be using Lisa's pencil from the Nitty Gritty Brush Pack. I'm just going to do some quick little sketches just to kind of work out my little fox before I dive straight in and add some color. So I can see the sort of outline of the figure, and this is giving me a good idea of where I can position some of the features of the fox. And as you know, a fox has a little sort of tuft on the side of its face. So that's just what I want to work out now. And it's got kind of like a division on his little face. Normally that's the sort of orangey color, and that's the creamer color. And I think for this little one, I'm going to make her a little girl. So just kind of working out what I want to do. I think I'm going to make her wear a little dress, so little face will come down like that. And her little arms. And this is just a rough, this is just my rough layer. I'm just basically working out what I want her little dress and her little figure to look like. So those are kind of like the armpits coming around. I think I'm going to rather do something like that. And then her skirt coming down. I'm going to use the legs that are sort of, you know, the closest together. And very roughly, I'm filling in all the little features. And then we're going to follow the body line, but because I want her shoulders to come in a little bit, whoops, I'm just going to bring that line in. Just gives us a little bit of a definition, and probably a little pocket, maybe even bigger, something that does that. And then of course we need to add a tail. So I think I'm going to bring the tail something like that. Okay, I'm going to turn the stamp layer off just to see where we're at. I think that looks pretty cute, and I'm happy with that. So I'm going to move on to the final line work layer. So bringing that opacity down of our line work, I'm going to create a layer above that. And just with a bit more pressure, I'm going to commit to my line work now. And I think I want maybe a little, sort of a little triangle-y shape here for her ears. And her little snout. And you can decide if you want this line to actually be quite defined, or if you just want the color to define it. I'm going to kind of go both ways and just go lightly, just a sort of faint definition. And I think that looks a bit yucky. And then cute little eyes. Maybe little eyebrows. And you can completely decide how strong you want your line work to be. Maybe your style doesn't even include line work and you dive straight into adding color. It's entirely up to you. And then I'm just going to take that dress just slightly beyond her body line. Gives the impression that she's wearing the dress as opposed to being stuck to her. But being stuck to her can also be quite cute. I think I want a little flick of a fur. And then again, we can decide how strong we want that line. That sort of definition between the light area and the orange. And then finally, our little pocket. I'm just going to turn that off. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. So now I'm going to move on to adding some color. And we're going to keep the palette quite simple. We're just going to use these colors for our palette. And if you're unsure of what colors to use in your drawing, I always recommend keeping your palette really simple. And you'll see that we've got warmer colors. So we've got an orange and kind of a sepia brown color with a slight pink. And then we've got a selection of some warm grays all the way to quite a dark gray. So you got some nice contrast in your palette, so you got some good value differences, but at least your palette is kept to a minimum, which helps you avoid overwhelm. Okay, so I'm going to use a technique that I've used a lot in the Nitty Gritty brush pack, and that is to basically lay down a darker color first, and I'm going to lay that down over the entire drawing, and then when I want to add different colors, I'm adding it on top of that. So what happens with that is it creates a nice uniform sort of cohesive look with the color palette. So using this almost dark gray, and I'm going to create a new layer underneath my drawing there. And I'm going to choose the smeary grain. And because this is my base layer, I don't have to be perfect, because we're essentially going to be adding color on top of this layer. But what I want to do is, as I said, just lay down an overall color first. This is also a great technique that artists often use in painting with acrylic. And you can decide how rough you want to be. I quite like the fact that sometimes things go over the line, adds to that sort of quirky, painterly effect of your drawing. It's also far more freeing and relaxing. And that's the great thing about digital. You can just undo or erase. Okay, so our base layer is now complete, and I'm going to start adding color on top of that. So let's start with the orange for her body. So using a different brush, I'm using the Cosmos because that's going to show a little bit of the underneath color coming through, which is exactly the look I'm going for. And you'll see there's some lovely sort of variation coming through. And I quite like that. So with this particular brush, the more you go over the area, the more ink you lay down. So if you don't want too much ink, then don't sort of go backwards and forwards. You know, don't go over the area a few times. And then, of course, if there are areas that you don't like that to me is a dash too much, I'm just going to go over that again. I definitely recommend experimenting and kind of figuring out what you prefer. Just gonna add a dash here and leave a little area for a white chest, and probably something like that. So on a new layer, we're gonna add a cream color to her face, and now you can really see that texture coming through. So this is where you can decide how much you want to you know, leave, or how much paint you want to apply. Oops. So when that happens, I'm not sure if you saw that, that's my tip that needs to be changed. Start getting some weird things happening with your painting. Okay, I think she's looking quite cute. Okay, so let's add some color to her dress. Again, working on a new layer. I'm going to stick to the same brush, and I'm using that sepia brown. Just want to take that off. And you can see I'm working quite fast because I really don't mind the scruffiness in my work. Kind of adds to the charm. Okay, so we're going to now add some detail to her dress, a cute little pattern. So coming over to the sort of pinky color, and I'm using a pattern from the Cute Art Creator. And let's try and find it. We want to use a geometric triangle. There it is. And I'm simply not going to worry about painting over the lines because we're going to clip that. I just want to be sure I like the size of that pattern. Yeah, I think it looks pretty good. So I'm just going to go ahead and choose that same layer that we've just worked on and hit clipping mask and make sure that it's above the dress, and it'll clip nicely to the dress. And now we're going to add some detail on the pocket. using that really dark, warm gray. I'm going to come back to the Nitty Gritty and Cosmos, just to keep things nice and simple and not complicate our lives with too many different brushes. So you'll see now how the color palette, laying that underneath color, is tying everything together, because it's showing through all the different areas, so they all are sharing the same base color, and as I said, it really helps to tie everything together. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a lovely little detail on top of that pocket using the cream color, and again, one of the patterns from the Cute Art Creator. I'm going to use the mid-grain spots. Maybe bring down the grain a dash. So tapping on that brush once, coming over to grain. I'm just going to bring that scale down a dash and then hitting done. And let's try that again. Yeah, I think it looks a bit better. And then we're going to clip that. And then, oops, I want to add just a cute little sort of detail here under her dress. So using that really dark gray again, I'm going to use one of these double brushes. Let's use that guy. So that I'm using the scallop and stitches, and I kind of want like a frilly effect underneath her dress. So I just want to check the size. Yeah, I'd say that actually is pretty good in terms of size. Now I just want to shift that. So coming over to our adjust tool, whatever it's called, this little adjustment tool, I'm just going to use liquify, okay, and I'm literally going to push that into position. And I suppose I could have redrawn that, but I'd probably be here all day trying to get it perfectly. So this is a good way to avoid having to redraw it over and over until you get exactly the right fit. And I'm happy with that. I think that looks pretty cute. And then finally we can add some cute little details of fur on top of the orange. Again, a new layer. Of course, you don't have to keep adding layers. I just like doing that in case I don't like what I do, then I can easily change that. So using the short lines, I'm just going to add, it's a little too big. Just going to add some cute detail on her face, and we can do the same here and there on her tail. Maybe something like that. And then finally, just to finish her off, I want to use a little bit of shadow just to help the illustration pop a little bit more. And again, new layer. This time you would need a new layer because we're going to use multiply. We're going to set that layer to multiply. And I'll be using that sort of light gray as my shadow. And again, coming back to Cosmos. So if our light source is coming in this direction, everything on this side where the light doesn't reach is going to be in shadow. But we're going to keep it really, really simple and not overcomplicate it. So you don't need to go into too much detail about light theory. And because her little arm is round, we're going to make that shadow round. And then of course there will be shadow underneath her chin area that comes round a little bit by her nose and definitely by her ears. And then her little arms will be creating shadow on the dress. And a little pocket. And again, her little legs are round, so we want that shadow to be round. And for the tail, I'm going to use kind of like strokes that mimic her fur. And it's just simple shadow work that just helps bring the illustration to life. Oh, and finally, nearly forgot, we need to add little cheeks. So I'm going to use, in fact, I'll just use a new layer. So using that cream color, pink color, we're just going to add little cheeks. And then on that same shadow layer, I always like adding a little bit of a shadow for her standing. And this time I'm going to just use Lisa's pencil and do a few scribbly lines. And that's it. You've now created a cute little fox in no time at all with a lovely painterly effect ready to be used for any project. I hope you enjoyed that. Happy creating!